Welcome to Libation Domination, the digital marketing and e-commerce podcast for the wine and spirits industry. Diving into real-world digital strategies that connect you to your customers and actually make money. And now, here's your hosts, Shem Swerkus and Justin Nolan.
Welcome back to Libation Domination, here with your host, Justin Nolan, and I'm Shem Swerkus. And Today we have a very special guest for you. We just really wanted to bring some awesome value to the wine industry. So we went outside and found someone who's really pioneering in his field, a consultant, the founder and CEO of the Mele Group, which started in 2014 for the sole purpose of helping business owners reach their full potential and achieve remarkable business groups. He has created the Business Growth Execution System, which is a step-by-step, fully integrated planning and execution system that gets business owners on track to realize the business they've always envisioned. His name is Thomas Mele. Thomas, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Welcome to the show.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Thanks, Shem, Justin. It's great to be here and excited to be able to discuss a topic that I love, which is getting businesses unstuck and on the path to growth and really achieving the results that their owners want.
Yeah, and talking about a passion for something that you've been doing for a little while now. Can you just give us some background? Tell us a little about how you started, how you got into this, and just a little bit about your journey.
Sure. Yeah, so my background is actually electrical engineering. My PhD is in electrical engineering, graduated from Cornell University back in 1988, spent 25 years in the semiconductor industry, building chips. So I've worked on technology in the lab, in the manufacturing area, in capital equipment production, everything to do with the industry. I've built factories and have been part of a technology rise, which is truly exciting. Every electronic device that you own now, I've probably worked on something that had something to do with its production over the years, which is quite exciting to look back on a career. And that took me a journey through being a chief marketing officer, a business general manager, R&D lab director, production manager. So it gave me a very, very broad background in how businesses operate, how they grow, how sometimes they don't grow. And what happened in my journey was in 2013, I was diagnosed with stage 3 head and neck cancer. Kind of derailed me for a year, had to go through chemotherapy, radiation. It was a long process, a very challenging year. And when I got through that process, I didn't know whether I had 6 months to live, a year to live, 6 years, 10 years. And what I decided was I knew what I didn't want. And that was I didn't want to spend the rest of whatever time I had left flying over the Pacific Ocean going to visit customers. And so I made a very conscious decision to leave the industry. What I love to do is to help solve complicated problems and work in business to kind of get their systems and processes and their people unstuck. And so I formed my consulting firm that I have now and created a system that basically pulls everything that I'd learned over those 25 years into a format, into tools, into structure that really any business owner can follow and get the same results that they would if they hired, consultants that can cost, $50, $60, $70, $100,000 to help them get on track. But to do it much more effectively and economically for them. And that's what I've been doing for the last 7 years. I've been working in lots of different industries. Fundamentally, business is business, right? I mean, you've got a top line sales, you've got bottom line net income you're trying to make. You produce something in the middle that creates value. And there's processes around that. There's people around that. All those things need to be really humming and on track for a company to reach its full potential. And that's what I focus on.
Nice. Yeah, Justin, you think there might be a few things there that we can take away and relate to the wine industry. One thing that really sticks out. I mean, first of all, I have to say, I'm glad you're still with us. I have to say that, you're a joy to play Mexican train with and drink some wine with, especially when I'm winning. But that's not often. So.
There will be a rematch after that last situation we had.
Last debacle. Yes. But maybe we can just side rail for just a second and maybe, because that's such a huge, when we talk about challenges and things that affect business and something that affected you very, very personally, that you had to overcome and get back on track, and really just such a shift in the way that you focused and took your career. Like what kind of the thought process there, or the clarity, or going through something so big and such a challenge, like what really goes through your mind to kind of navigate that?
Yeah, it's I'm glad you asked that question, because that's really key to the journey I try to take my clients on. Because my typical client is a privately held business. So there is a business owner, it can be a family, it can be multiple generations, it can be one individual. But that person in business has decided to be in that business because they decided that business was something either they loved to do, they wanted to do, but ultimately they want that business to produce the life that they want. Mm. And I think that's really key. And that was the realization I came to, through my journey of coming out of cancer was, all right, with the life I've got left, what do I want that life to be? And I decided, as I said, I don't want to be on an airplane flying across the Pacific Ocean. I'd rather be doing other things. And through a time of, you have a lot of time to think when you're going through something like that, really decided what I wanted to do was to come in to help business owners really get the maximum out of their business so they could have the life that they want. And that's really, I literally start every client engagement with that process, which is, what is the life you want this business to produce? Because once we understand that in its totality, financially, time-wise, what they want to be doing, where they want to be, how big they want to be, then you can create that company vision to accomplish that, right? You can build the team, you can build the processes, you can, create the product lines, you can do whatever you want. But so many business owners, they kind of get into a business and they just start working, right? And they think eventually they just keep working, things will fall into place. And what happens is after 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they realize, what am I doing? I thought I was going to be living a different life than the one I'm living. And so that really got me started on that being the starting point for the system and for what I needed to do myself.
So you're telling me that you start conversations with, what is your objective?
What is your life? What is the life you want to live? Yep. What do you want to be doing every day? How much time do you want off during the year? How much money do you want to make? What does celebrating your success look like? Those types of conversations, it's literally a worksheet I have my clients fill out and we go through, because that defines literally everything that your business needs to become, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like you're talking like directly to the wine industry a little bit on this, because a lot of the owners of certainly of the smaller wineries, but even mid-size, even as you get in growth mode on a lot of them, they entered the industry with this like commitment and passion for wine and for what wine is all about, and really heavily focused on all of the aspects of bringing a great wine to market and being able to enjoy that wine. And that's really what they truly focus in on and what they really are caring about. And then you have conversations with them and it's like, okay, well, like let's talk about marketing, or let's talk about the stories behind stuff. And it's very much a not having necessarily the people in place or the systems and processes in place, because they're truly focused on that passion project of what it is. And they do immediately like just amazing stuff. But not seeing necessarily the bigger, broader picture of what they could be doing so that they could focus more in on that and doing that part while allowing the business to grow and the business to be better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And that's not uncommon in a lot of different businesses, right? Because most people get into a business because they're passionate about whatever it is that they're doing. But the passion will only get you so far. You gotta have a life. You gotta enjoy it. You just gotta provide for you, your family, and that's what I really try to get people focused on. Step one.
Step one. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So by the way, this is one thing I really love about you, Thomas, is that you really provide value up front. So even if somebody isn't going to take your services or sign up for your services, they can still get tremendous value from you because you're talking about these things with this 7 critical steps, this guide that you can get for free, and we'll leave the link in the show notes so that you can pick it up. So please be sure to download that. But let's talk about some of the first steps. So can you take us through some of those steps?
Yeah, so I created this guide. This guide is a kind of a summary of the major milestones that my clients go through when we work together. My entire system's built around the best resources, the best books that have been published. I mean, over the last literally 40 years, and connect those books and resources together. So if a person out there is a real do-it-yourselfer, right? They love to do things themselves. They don't want anybody's outside help. Let's give them the books to read. Let's show them what the critical things are inside of those books and then how the different topics link together. And so the 7 steps came about to just kind of take clients on that journey to hit the key points. And like we were just talking about, that lifestyle piece goes right into that first step, which is, okay, what is the envisioned business you have? And it's not just some fluffy statement. It's literally when you reach your ultimate goal of what you want your business to become, what does that look like? What does it feel like? What is it, let's take a time machine travel to that future date, 5, 10, 15 years from now. Let's get out of the time machine. Let's have you walk into your business, and what do you see? What do you see financially? What do you see from your customer standpoint? How is it operating from a business process? What does your team look like? How is it functioning? And that's step 1 of any business journey, is putting that together. And each of the steps that are in that tool takes you kind of systematically through, gives you the book to read, the page to read. This is the thing you need to do. And by the end, you have the rudiments of a basic business plan.
Yeah. Do you find that step 1, do you find it can be more challenging than it sounds sometimes?
Actually, it's a funny journey. So the typical journey for my clients is we start with the vision, we go to strategy, and from strategy to execution. It's a very deliberate step. And inside the vision piece, there's that lifestyle design piece that we do. And then there's the company vision, which is a great resource on that 7 steps. It is the one I use with all my clients. And actually, the vision step out of those 3 is the easiest, because people love to dream. People can come up with dreams that are amazing. And I've had some clients come up with some pretty amazing dreams. So the dreaming part is actually easy. Once you get them thinking that way, the possibilities, boy, you mean I can really design a business to be what I want it to be? Yeah, you actually can. Now, what happens a lot is we craft a vision for them, and then we get into the strategy piece, and they start to realize what they're going to have to do to make that vision. And sometimes we have to go back because the work they have to do is too much. Happens all the time. They say, oh, that's too big, or I don't want to have a team that big, or I don't want to make that level of investment, or I don't want to, that's not consistent with what I want life-wise. Then we have to make adjustments. But the vision piece is usually, once people start thinking about it, it's pretty easy.
Nice. Yeah, that's, it made me think of, you asked me the other day, like, where do you want to go? Like, if you could go anywhere and there was no cost associated,
right?
And you asked me, and I couldn't think of it. So, it's one of those things, like, if you ask me what I want to do this weekend, I'm going to say I want to work. Like, but maybe I'm just the oddball here that enjoys some of that. So,
well, you do work in the wine industry. So, work is actually not that. It can be, research, right? You got to do a lot of research.
Yeah, Justin, I think we need another one of those trips to Napa type research projects.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's a few wineries out there that we could learn a lot from, and just need to definitely be tasting and trying new things and exploring their hospitality.
Yeah, and so Justin, if you could just real quick for us here, maybe connect the dots here when Thomas talks about that vision and understanding what you want your business to look like, what we can take away in the wine industry from this.
Yeah, so I think there's a few different things. First and foremost is I think that a lot of executives in the wine industry essentially get caught up with the same vision or the same ideals, and they don't necessarily personalize it to themselves as to truly what they want out of it. And that's one of those things where I think there's a tremendous amount of value in getting specific and getting really, really personal on what that vision is, both, as you mentioned, both from like a lifestyle perspective, but also from what do you want that company to be? What do you want that brand to stand for? A lot of the wine industry kind of falls into place as to this is who we are. And then the next company says, oh yeah, us too. Oh yeah, us too. And this is where I think there can be a lot of value in truly honing in on what a particular brand, particular company is personally, and what their unique vision is, what they uniquely care about. We talk in marketing about authenticity a lot, and everybody thinks authenticity is just knowing where the grapes are grown or just knowing the processes being used in wine. But there's so much more to being authentic. It's really about knowing what you care about. It's knowing where you want to be and knowing who you want to be and who you want your customers to be. And I think as an industry, we get caught up in the same here kind of mode, and I certainly think we need to get away from that.
Yeah, that's a excellent point, and I'll give you an example. So the very common when I'm working with my clients on creating the vision, and we get into the core values statement, the core purpose and the core values, which is really that authenticity you're talking about. Who are you as a company? What is it that you stand for, type of thing. A lot of clients, particularly in the manufacturing space, will say, well, quality's, core absolutely core to us, right? Because they think that has to be on their core values, right? Then I ask them a simple question. Well, when was the last time you actually had a meeting about quality? Or what quality systems have you worked on this year to improve? And they look at it and say, well, we talked about it maybe a year or so ago. It's like, then quality is not a core value, right? What is your team talking about every day? What are you talking about every day? That's going to reveal what you guys are really all about and what your authenticity is. And that goes directly to your point, which is that represents your brand. You can't fake it. You can't fake quality. You can't fake stuff. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've seen too many company visions where they just lay out and it's like, here's 3 or 4 adjectives that quite frankly don't describe anything, but they think describes everything. And what does it actually say about you and what you care about, and how do you connect with the consumer or connect with your employees or connect with any aspect of your business? And that's kind of where the vision needs to start from. Don't you think?
Yep. Yeah. So that first book, back to your point, Shem, that's on the list for step 1, deals with that beautifully and really explains the power of getting that right.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so when you talk about getting that right, and then you get the strategy in place, it makes me think like, so if you've ever heard someone talk about I had that idea, or something, like when something's really popular, when it's blown up and everybody's doing it or everybody's buying it, and they're like, yeah, I had that idea 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. But it only matters who executed it, right?
Right.
So when you get the strategy in place, how do you get onto that next step of execution?
So the second step that's in the 7-step tool talks about a book that's called Scaling Up. Fabulous book, really presents the reader with really all the tools they need to put a business plan together. It's complex. I won't go into it right now, but once you have that strategy, so the strategy is actually a fun piece for my clients too, because this, for many of them, is the first time they're literally putting a business plan together, right? So they've heard about things, they know about what it means to put a financial model together. They've heard of a SWOT analysis. They know what it means to put a revenue plan together of, how you're going to generate revenue from customers and offerings. They've heard about this stuff, or maybe they've done some of it, but they've never done the whole thing. So when we produce a single page strategy for them, they're kind of excited because they finally see where their business is going. They finally see something written down that says, okay, this is what we're going to do. These are our priorities, and this is where we're going to go. The biggest challenge is making that leap from plan to execution. It's huge. It's huge. And frankly, some clients never make the jump. And the reason is everything's theoretical up until that point. Then as soon as you get to execution, it becomes real, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to start making decisions like what we're going to do, what we're not going to do, what products are we going to keep, what products are we going to stop, what products do we need, what people are working, what people are not working, what people do we have to get, what people do we have to find something else for them to do because they're not doing that well. What processes do we have to change, right? Changing processes, particularly in the wine business, can be excruciating for people, right? Because this is how we've always done it. This is how we do it here. And when an owner or a leadership team hits those decisions, that can be tough. That's a deal breaker right there for a lot of people. They hit that wall. So you can have a great plan, great vision. It's exciting, an execution strategy that you know exactly what you need to do. And then you start to make things happen, and wow, it gets exciting then.
Do you think a lot of the trepidation around that execution part just comes from just the idea of change, or is it a lot of the specific changes that need to be put into place?
It's both. Honestly, it's, some people just don't like to change. They just don't want to change. They're comfortable. I think as human beings, we get into our comfort zones and we like to be comfortable and predictable. Now, there are those people out there that, every day is a new adventure for them. And that's great. But it's both. It's coming to the reality that they're going to have to change, but it gets down to the tough decisions. And a lot of them kind of cover the three that we've talked about, right? One is people. People is a big deal. When someone finally puts a vision together where they want to take a company, it really reveals the people that you've got and whether they're doing the job, whether they're not doing the job, whether they can do the job. And there's a whole process. In fact, there's a whole step in the 7-step tool, step number 6, which is how to engineer your organization to be scalable. That's a big deal. And it ties to people's strategy and putting people in boxes and realizing that maybe some of the people you got don't fit in a box. That's hard for a lot of people, particularly family businesses. Mm-hmm. No one wants to let Uncle Joe know that he's got to go, right? No one wants to have that conversation. And that gets people stuck a lot.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. I can imagine, especially, as we talk to, wineries all over that are very much family run, very much family organized, or have had good friends that have kind of come up and worked with them for the longest of times. We focus a lot on digital marketing and how that evolution is essentially hitting the wine industry, and continue to talk about the need to bring in new talent and new people, because if this is where you want to be, having somebody that actually has those capabilities and those mindsets is really, really important. And I do think, I mean, just listening to you talk, it's like, that's exactly what's happening. It's trying to say, okay, this person doesn't fit in the box, so let me put them here and see if they can get it done. As opposed to saying, no, like who actually has the skill sets to make that work?
Yeah. In fact, I just sent out an email to my subscribers focused on troublemakers. I call them troublemakers, but it's really the people in your organization that are causing problems. And this year really revealed a lot of that to a lot of people, because everybody was under stress for lots of different reasons. And the people that were marginal on teams really, most of them, didn't step up they stepped down in performance, and it started to really impact people's businesses. They had to make some tough choices.
On that note, I'm curious. So, and yeah, it has been a really, really difficult year for an awful lot of people, both in the adjustments that need to be made, but also in the shifts being made to allow people to work from home and just continue to get the work done. But do you think that sort of has helped executives understand who is actually contributing to the bottom line and who is actually getting work done when people tend to be a little bit more judged based on their work versus their purely like time in office or butts and seats kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, when the tide goes down, it exposes all the rocks that you can run into, right? And so people began to see the stress points and the things that in their processes too, right? I mean,
sure.
In the wine industry with the, all of the tasting rooms being closed. I mean, massive part of the pipeline of these wineries gone, right? And so, how did they adjust? And all those people that they had working, and part of that element of the business, you're not going to put them in production. They don't have the skills to go into production, right? But in any event, to your point, I think identification was the easy part. The hard part's taking action. Okay. And what makes it equally really difficult to take action is that in most cases, most clients, businesses that I initially engage with, they don't have any descriptions of what people were supposed to be doing, right? So what is the job scope? How is their performance measured? How is it, how are they, what are the behaviors that we need them to be demonstrating? What are the competencies they need to have? What is the work elements that they need to be consistently doing? Who do they actually help in the company? And so this concept that I talk about in step 6 in the tool, which is position agreements, super important, right? So now if you have a position agreement where everybody knows what that job is supposed to be, then, that really gives people, the goal is to give them clarity so they can actually opt out. Right? So they can say, oh, if this is my job, I don't want this job. Right? And we say, well, this is the job we got. Right? And so you can either train them and teach them how to do it if they're willing, or they self-opt themselves out. And that can be a very, very powerful tool to help your team make decisions for you that maybe you don't want to make. Uncle Joe can say, I don't want that job. Well, and you say, well, Uncle Joe, that's the job that's got to get done. We need a person in that job. And if it's not you, then we're going to have to get somebody else.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah. So, I feel like, and we touched on it a little bit with this conversation here, but it feels like we're kind of transitioning a little bit, at least in our area, especially where businesses are starting to open up and people are starting to get back to not so much normal, because it's probably never going to be super normal for a long time, but at least businesses are starting to try and, move again. So what are some of the challenges that you're seeing and how they're being addressed, or how you're addressing them?
Yeah, I think every industry is different. The challenges that they're facing, I've had some clients this past year, it was their best year ever by a lot. It just because of the way the industry they're in. A good example, real estate. Real estate teams this year, unbelievable year they had here in California, right? And that's an interesting case because it's kind of, one of their number one lead magnets was just open houses, gone, right? So you take away their number one lead generating source and they still had their best year ever, right? Because of the market circumstances and some things. But I think everybody, business planning never goes out of style. Every business owner, every leadership team of every business needs to take some quality time every year and analyze every facet of their business and to take a step back and reflect on where are we going, what are we doing, what's going to work, what are we going to get rid of, and make those choices very deliberately and get the team aligned around it. And I think that's Really important now is, like you said, we're starting to emerge. What can we keep? What did we start doing last year that actually is working, right? That we want to keep. We don't want to throw it all away. We don't want to go back necessarily, because I'll give you a great example. So one of the tools I use is called a SWOT analysis. Many people have heard of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And that threat piece, where it's really what is an outside existential threat to your business that you should be thinking about, right? And for most of my clients, regardless of industry, a lot of them would talk about, in California, a lot of them are earthquakes, right? If we have a massive earthquake, how do we have business continuity, right? Is our data safe? Is our warehouse safe? Are our people safe? Can we operate if no one can get to the office? These types of things are, threats that people used to talk about, right? No one ever wrote down worldwide pandemic. In the 7 years I've been doing that analysis, nobody, right? I guarantee you, as we go through the cycle, and it happened this year as we went through the cycle this fall with my clients, people were thinking about it. They were thinking, okay, all right, what happens if we get shut down again for 6 months or 9 months or 12 months? What are we going to do? It could happen. It just happened, right? No one thought it was even possible. Now it can happen. So what are we going to do about that? And there's things you can do, right? There's things you can do. There's things you can do to, and a lot of people took steps now. How do we operate? We're doing a lot of business over Zoom or Microsoft Teams and using all these tools. That's not going to go away. That's going to be used. That'll be continued to be used. People figure out how to leverage it to make their businesses more effective. Cash reserves, right? I used to have clients, I used to say, you need 6 months of operating cash in the bank. They all laughed at me. Come on. What am I ever going to need 6 months of cash? Are you crazy? I want to put that money to work, right? They weren't saying that last June. Mm-hmm. They were saying, Thomas, I wish I would have listened to you, because we could have gotten through this a lot easier if I had had that money on hand. So let's learn from what happened last year. Let's sit down and think about where we're going, and let's apply what worked. Let's adopt the new stuff we learned, and let's move forward.
I was going to say, talking to a lot of winery owners over the last, 5 to 6 months or so, as we kind of got past the initial, we got to figure it out, we got to run, we got to hustle, we got to do everything, kind of, everybody running around just trying stuff, and then getting further into how do we change strategically for the future? I've heard a lot more, questions on, is this tasting room even that important to our business anymore? Obviously it's a great opportunity to acquire new customers. And for many, it was their primary source of income, because that's what drove people there. But being reliant upon that without having other more diverse channels, set them up to struggle in the beginning. And it's also not a very scalable opportunity. Right. So it was now they're, essentially forced into creating other pathways and other channels, and realizing there's more scale in those and less costs, and, various other things. But even the biggest of wineries that were looking at distribution and realizing that, we can get more wine. People are buying, and people bought significantly more wine at grocery stores over the last year. But they didn't see an opportunity to drive line growth. There wasn't meetings with the buyers. There wasn't meetings with distributors. It was a lot more online connection. And how do we do that? How do we do it differently? So they're thinking about stuff like, how do we incubate and create brands that are direct to consumer to start with, see if they catch on, see if they get a connection with the consumers, and then we'll talk about the distribution side. So I think it really has engaged people to be thinking differently. And I don't see us ever going back to the way it was before. There'll be elements, obviously, that'll come back, Napa and Sonoma and the wine countries, certainly in California, are world renowned for hospitality and experiences. But it's probably going to be years before we get the international traffic back, and it's going to be a long time before all of those things change and come back to the way they were. So
Yeah, and I think that what you're saying is absolutely correct. I mean, business models have to change. It doesn't mean you throw everything out. It's just you have to modify it, right? And like you said, can you add the online distribution channel? Can you bolster that up? Still keep this other thing, maybe the same, maybe scale it back, maybe even invest more in it. But let's look at the other channels, and that's business model changes. And when you change your business model, you got to look at how are we going to be profitable? What are the costs? How do we scale? Like you said, very, very important.
Yeah, nice. So Thomas, just to wrap up here, I just want to make sure everybody knows, go get this 7 critical steps you can take today to get your business on track. This guide, this tool, it's free. Thomas has put the time in to give us this value, and we're going to leave the link in the show notes. But if somebody wants to get a hold of you, Thomas, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, the best way is just to go to the website, and which we'll put in the notes, and click on there, click contact, and we'll book a meeting and we'll talk.
Yeah, there you go. Thomas Mele, everybody. Thank you so much, Thomas, for coming on and joining us for this podcast. If you like this show, please click the like button. Please subscribe. If you loved it, please share it with your friends, and let's all grow in digital together.
Thanks for joining us on Libation Domination, the digital marketing and e-commerce podcast for the wine and spirits industry. Make sure to visit our website at libationdomination.com and subscribe to make sure you don't miss an episode. We're here for you with real-world digital strategies that connect you to your customers and actually make money.